So, the liver. It'd be funny if I just silently read all about the liver while we practiced. but instead, let's see that this is our practice today. And the liver is it's a really dramatic organ. And it is the organ that most commonly, as a people on the earth alive now, most of our livers need extra support. But before we get into the details about the liver and its effect on the masses, just take some time to notice how you're feeling. Notice which is the first area that you want to see how you're feeling. Maybe you went to the spot that's kind of achy, or maybe you went to the places where you're most awake. But mentally take a scan down your body, from your head, your beautiful face, your shoulders, your chest, your back, your upper arms, your lower arms, your hands, feeling the place all the way down your spine, maybe feeling your ribs dropping towards the ground. Feel your hips heavy, your buttocks relaxed, your thighs relaxed on the ground. Maybe feeling a little pressure on the top of your kneecap. Noticing that your shin is probably floating above the ground. See if you can feel the relaxation of your calf. Feel the tops of your feet on the ground. Feel your arches of your feet. And then notice if you can feel the sensation of your body in one piece. And gently release your upper body down to the ground. Take your gaze to one side or the other. Moan and groan a little bit. Manly groans. It's a good thing I'm wearing my beer shirt. And then we're going to see if saddle pose is available to either of you. So come up onto your heels and maybe scoot back to the middle of your mat. And see if you can come back to your elbows. If that's possible, maybe you can come back all the way. And if you're close, you can put a mat underneath your shoulders. And if you're not close, maybe put a mat underneath your elbows. And it might be that this posture isn't available to you this fine Thursday morning. And if that's the case, don't fight with it. We all know how to fight. But make friends with it instead and come into Sphinx again. It's so easy for us to know that like everybody has different eyes and different fingerprints. But we also have different bones and different joints and different karma and different biographies. So have no fear. What's hard for you is going to be hard for you, and that is the challenge. And nobody escapes having something that's challenging or a problem or hard for them. Even if they can do all yoga postures fine. So as you took a scan of your physical body, you probably at the same time already noticed your energetic body. And maybe especially you noticed that when I said a certain part of your body and when you brought your attention there, you felt a little bit more liveliness there. That's the first layer of kind of evidence of your magic. The fact that you can think about a body part and it starts to warm up. And yet we still have this very cavalier idea that what we think doesn't matter. Take some time to notice how your feelings are this morning. Your emotions, your deeper feelings. to, in that same line of investigation, I also like to notice where I am still engaged in being creative with my feelings. Like, how can I be more loving? How can I be more kind? So a lot of times we get used to thinking, or the pictures present us to us, even in lofty places, that our feelings just happen to us, and that we don't have a say in them. But one of the wonderful things about the language of your heart is that there's much more of an intention there, and the possibility to participate in creating how you want to feel. Take 5 more full deep breaths. And after your 5th breath, make your way out of the pose. Moaning and groaning is totally alright. Wiggling too. It's a little hard when other people are groaning, but at least the floor is creaky. Deep breathing. Deep breathing. And just take a moment in between your postures just to notice how your thinking is this morning. Is your thinking soft around the edges or sharp and darting back and forth between things? Do you have an idea that you can't let go of? And then bring your hands underneath your shoulders and push back to child's pose. Cross your ankles and bring your legs in front of you. Go through child's pose, then cross your ankles and roll over your crossed ankles. This is a fluid child's pose thing. And come into butterfly with your feet. So with your heels 2 hands length away from your groin. And then again, relax back onto your elbows and drop your head back. Notice where your attention goes in the silence. And take a couple moments to look at yourself as if you were a stranger, but still using the eyes of love. Relax your upper body down to the ground, keeping your feet like that. One hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. And then you're going to lift your feet up and take your hands into prayer and reach your fingertips through your beautiful diamond and sit up. So you just go, whoop. Awesome. And now you're like, why did you make us do that? Well, one is you basically just did a sit-up. But if you activate your legs a little bit, it protects your spine in doing a sit-up. The arms were just for me. You can also do an abdominal series that way. So let your head drop. Let your body soften. So our liver is named accordingly, or named after a verb in a lot of different languages. It's not just English, and it's not just Swedish and German, but there's other languages where the liver still has this like verb as a name. And it's so beautiful in traditional Chinese picture, like Taoist picture of the world, the different elements aren't just fire, earth, air, and water, but there's also wood. I'm sorry. In the Chinese, like in our like Western, we do the 4 elements, but in the Chinese tradition, instead of air, it's metal, and then wood. And wood is particularly different from the 4 elements we look at. It really is this 5th impulse. And it has this nature of growth in it. And if we look at what the liver literally does, is it actually collects amino acids and builds new proteins. So we often take and notice the story of the liver and how it's able to handle the unknown substances that enter our bodies. And get rid of them, about our liver being like our defense mechanism in a way. But we don't talk so much much about liver's ability to build us up, to allow us new growth. With wood in a tree, it has different parts of it that are absolutely necessary to have a healthy, strong, big tree. You know, if the roots don't go deep enough into the earth, the tree above the earth won't flourish. If the soil around the tree is degraded, the tree will suffer. And the tree already presents to us one of the most beautiful things, because we can look at a tree and we go, oh wow, what a beautiful tree. And we think that we're looking at something isolated and single. But a tree is not only intimately connected to the earth it's standing on and the air it's in, but it's also connected to other trees. There's even research and exploration into trees having relatives, so to say, like offspring and elders, not just elder trees. And that the communication between trees is far more than we imagine. With your next inhale, lift up your chin, your chest, roll up. And you're going to pull your right heel closer towards your groin, and you're going to sweep your left leg behind you. You can disappear. Stretch all the way to your toes so your foot isn't sickled. You can do exactly that, where you tuck your toes under and reach and push back with your heel, and then slide your toes back, like sweeping the ground. If your right hip's really lifted, you might want to put a pillow or a block like books, or a pillow or a rolled up sweatshirt, or a handy dandy little yoga mat. I have another sweatshirt there and a towel here. Yeah. This is actually called a scarf. And ideally you get to a point where your hips are pointing straight forward. Your right knee is just slightly to the right of your right hip, rather than in front of your groin. And then you slide your upper body down towards the ground. Stretch your arms out, feeling like it's a fancy bow. In an experiment where there was an attempt to recreate the ecosystem of the earth. I know now it sounds kind of silly. A great big kind of duodecic dome was built. And they brought everything in. They had this wonderful soil. They had flowers and vines and bushes and trees and grasses and bugs and birds and bees. They've done a lot of research, and they really, really did a thorough job. And then this environment was like a sealed environment. And for the first year, everything was going like hunky-dory. But after the first year, what happened was the trees seemed to be suffering and dying. And the scientists were so confused. They went over their list, they went over what they had. They had all the right nutrients in the soil. They had all the right bugs. The air quality was good. They couldn't figure out what it was that was missing. And then finally they figured out the missing element was wind. It wasn't just about air being still. It was about the wind blowing. creating something for the tree to push against, essentially, and thereby to grow. In our liver, I wonder what is the same. Now, on one hand, we can think that we can kind of preserve the liver. We can eat only good foods and take in only good things. And no matter how idealistic, however, we are, even in our air that we breathe, we are going to encounter foreign objects that our liver has to deal with. And I can imagine, mostly because of the nature of trees, but this actually, the liver being able to function in all of its multiplicity is part of what makes it actually stronger. I'm not saying to go out there and take poisons. There's plenty that we take in accidentally. But to have an imagination that our body isn't a victim. Take 10 more full deep breaths. So in the psycho-emotional connection that's highlighted for us by the traditional Chinese medicine, when the liver is healthy, it's connected to our ability to be kind, to be generous, to be benevolent. These are absolutely beautiful virtues. And when our liver is taxed and suffering, the psycho-emotional challenges that arise are ones of rage and anger, irritability, frustration. And move your way out of the pose, wriggling around a little bit, moaning and groaning. And then transition into the other side. So you might have to see for a moment what story you've made up. You think the right side's going to be, the left side's going to be just like the right side? Maybe. Maybe not. Let's go find out. So bring your left knee slightly to the left of your left hip. Bring the floor up to you if your buttocks is floating by putting a block or whatever, really. I mean, other than small children, you can probably use whatever's lying around. Books, building blocks, cooking pot. Take a full inhale with your exhale. Allow your upper body to relax and bow forward, stretching forward. Noticing that you can roll your weight just subtly to one side or the other And the tendency is to want to roll it to the left, but instead bring it so it's right in the middle. You can make this posture more intense by bringing your shin more parallel with the top of your mat. And you can make it more gentle by bringing your heel as close to your groin as possible. And if it's too much on your knee, you can take the alternative of thread the needle pose. So not only is the liver actually connected to these virtues, which each one of our organs is connected to a virtue, but it's also connected to an ability to be resolute, like to have a decision and keep the decision, to plan, and to have a creative drive and assertiveness. Both in the negative aspects of what's expressed connected to the liver as well as the positive aspects, there is this upsurging that happens. Like, so if in anger, you can feel it sometimes where it's nearly like the drawing in the Chinese medicine books are like this energetic wave surging up your body and crashing over your head and out into your actions. And when we practice these virtues connected to the liver, it's also, you can feel it nearly. Like those moments where you need to bring your willpower to being kind, where your reaction may have been something different. The willpower to be generous, even when maybe you're fearful of your own future. Or this act of benevolence, noble kindness. We can feel that we have to engage in this upward activity. It's nearly as if we have to pull it out of ourselves. It's not just an automatic response of being nice or polite. We often can get so comfortable with creativity lying in the field of art or the field of creation, like food or furniture, just two things that come to mind. Sculptures or paintings. But really our creativity is part of our human, I really want to say freedom, or when we can create our relationships, we can create agreements, we can create like opportunities for insight in another. We can create so many different things. Like we're so creative, we don't even notice we're creators in some ways. We think that a lot of what we're creating is just what's happening. A little bit like fish's relationship to the water, we imagine. Okay, next inhale. Raise your upper body up. And this time you're going to sweep your right leg around. And you're going to put your right heel, like your right knee in front of your groin. And you're going to bring your left knee on top of your right knee, if that works. You may find that you need a little bit more space, and so you can stretch your right leg straight up. And just, yeah. And in this pose, this shoelace pose, you ideally want to get your knees right over one another and to be sitting on both your sit bones. So sometimes even lifting up onto your hands and knees and kind of cuddling your knees together actually allows you more ease in the posture, oddly enough. I mean, what doesn't get easier if you get a little cuddle first? And it still might not be quite enough. So then stretching your right leg is great. Lift up your chest and bring your chin to your chest and roll forward. And you may be surprised that your morning body doesn't do what your afternoon body does. Take a full inhale. With your exhale, just sigh out. So in TMC, traditional Chinese medicine, the division between soul and spirit isn't really articulated the same way it is in Western cosmologies. And instead of really, they do talk about spirit, but they also talk about that we have like two parts of our soul. And one of the parts is this ethereal, everlasting soul that stays with us from lifetime to lifetime. And the other soul is the soul that's tied to our corporal body, that dies with our body. And the liver is what houses the ethereal soul, the part of our soul that doesn't die. And this makes a lot of sense. Because the liver is also then energetically, the activity of the liver has really this, we have this possibility of growth in our deepest nature. You know, if you could really practice kindness as an art and really always choosing that path, that is a tremendous path of growth. But I think even more to the point is this element of, and we find this again tied to all of our organs, this element of allowing our will to enhance the capacity, the gifts of that organ. But the energetic connection of this organ is also to in the cosmos, is to the planet Jupiter, and also thereby this kind of the picture of the god Jupiter. Another way to look at this archetype of Jupiter
is to imagine a wise teacher or a wise king. And both the teacher and the king, and some could argue a general, has the long-term strategy, has the vision of where you want to find, where you want to go in the future, but like, not like next moment, but like way in the future. So whether this is this lifetime or even in our lifetimes, there's something that the liver connects to. And with your inhale, roll up your chest, and you can either stay with your bottom leg extended or with it folded, but pull on your knee and allow it to help you sit up more. And if you're going to put your right foot onto the floor so your knee lifts up a little bit more. And you may need to slide it in front of your knee a little bit, ideally aiming to have the bottom of your foot and both sit bones on the ground. And then pulling your knee a little bit inward, lift up tall. You can even raise your right arm and twist away from it and hook your elbows to the outside. Maybe you can fold your fingers underneath your shin there. Maybe you just hold onto your mat. You might allow your back arm to either support you staying tall and lifted, or actually twisting your arm around and reaching for the inside of your right thigh. So inhale, get lifted and taller. Exhale, get more twisted. Inhale, push down into the ground to feel the height available to you. Imagine you have the roots reaching down so you can grow up in your trunk. Take another full inhale, lift up and get a little taller, and with your exhale, get more twisted. Just keep your heart lifting up. Take another full inhale, exhale, twist. And then unwind. And you can take a little bow to the other side. That would be the right side. And then you have options. If you want to play, you can roll forward, put your head on the ground, lift up your legs, and switch your legs, and come back down. First, in your imagination, maybe. And it might be, exactly, it might not be all the way up the headstand. It was like the breakdancing version. It's really good to practice these things, especially when you're getting too serious. Now, stretch out your bottom leg if that's what you need to for the first shoelace pose. We're not going straight into the twist, we're doing the shoelace pose first. So either letting your knee drop or bending both your knees. And you might have to do the knee cuddle. And then bring your chin to your chest and bow forward. So, with a lot of these virtues, benevolence, generosity, and kindness, we have an appropriate idea that that is outward activity, that it expresses between us and someone else. But there's also an element where we want to figure out what's being kind to ourselves, what's being generous to ourselves. And not as, it's not always generous to say yes to exactly what you're craving in that moment. Or or it's not always kind to get what you want to yourself. You know, this practice of bringing these virtues to include ourselves as well as other humans in our practice of a virtue can be confronting. But build something up in us. A level of what happens when we know we can be responsive to something. My friend and I yesterday were discussing, this element of, we always have this feeling of we know what's best for us. It's great, it's wonderful, right on. But if we don't actually participate in that conversation in an awake manner, it won't evolve with us. So when I was 15, I thought I was a woman full grown, and I thought I knew what was best for me. Now, looking back at that child, I have a different idea. And I still have that same feeling of like, duh, I'm a woman, and I know what's best for me. But learning from past experience has given me a little bit more softness to maybe say, I think I know what's best for me, but I'm open to discover what's truly best for me. And inhale, roll up your chest. Make sure things still work. And then either slide your right foot in front, like towards the front part of your left thigh or knee, or just step it if your leg's extended. Pull your heart up and closer, and then stretch your left arm up. Not just yet, let it lift up and open your heart, and then twist away from it. Seeing if maybe your fingertips slide underneath your calf, on your left hand, if your right hand can slide around your back to grip the inside of your left thigh, or your left hip. Or maybe it's just helping you sit up tall by pushing down into the ground behind you. Inhale, feel the lift in your body. Exhale, feel the twist. And feel how those activities go together. So all the proteins that the liver creates has to do with growth and repair. Maybe roll your ears slightly forward. Yes. Or feel your chin lifted in your chest. Take another inhale, find the length. Exhale, find the twist. And then unwind and just bow to your left hand side, to the feminine side. Your next inhale, squeeze all your muscles to your bones and push down into the floor as hard as you can. And then with your exhale, relax. One more time. Inhale, try to dent the floor. You can already have your palms up. And with your exhale, release. With your next inhale, invite your awareness back to the edges of your body. And then do whatever movement feels right for you to make a transition towards curling up on your left-hand side, stimulating your yang meridian along your spine to balance our yin practice. You guys are inspiring. Amazing. And help yourself up into a seated position. Allow your hands to meet at heart center. Feel the height and space inside your spine. Empty your breath and join me in one final Om. Take a deep inhale. Bring your prayer hands to your third eye. Invite the divine light. And as we bow forward together, we say, Namaste. And then make a little
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Be happy and relaxed. Happy and relaxed. I mean, generous and kind.
Not scared.
To no fear, no fear.